सर आपने ये बात की लियोनार्डो वाली बात, जो erstwhile ऑगस्टा वेस्टलैंड एंड फिर मैकेंजी थी. Now here's a question that I want to ask you. That company was blacklisted because of certain violations, right? Is it a high time that we should ignore and overlook corruption, or we should not make it a stumbling block to get the best technology?
Certainly. Certainly. Corruption became a driver to stall procurement processes. And corruption was not the issue really. What you went and did was that you created a monopoly market. So one buyer, one seller. Air Force, HAL, no competition. क्या होगा? Both organizations will perish. What stimulates excellence? Competition. हमने कह दिया HAL करेगा. HAL क्यों करेगा? HAL करप्शन नहीं कर सकता, बाकी सब करेंगे.
वो दूध के दूल्हे.
मान लिए हैवी, it needs competition.
Correct.
Can you play cricket without competing? It's common sense. So I keep telling you that all this has kicked common sense out. And today innovation is just challenging monopoly markets. तो इतना भाई करप्शन से कि RFP 3 साल में निकले, 6 साल में निकालो RFP. मेक श्योर कि बिल्कुल ही चांस ना हो करप्शन का, बट वो प्रोडक्ट तो नहीं निकलेगा.
सर इट गोज बैक टू द डिफेंस मिनिस्टर A.K. Antony's टाइम कि क्या कहते हैं, डिसीजन पैरालिसिस वाज देयर कि जस्ट टू बी स्पॉटलेसली क्लीन आई विल नॉट इवन टेक अ डिसीजन.
Yeah, so we have gone through eras under Rajiv Gandhi, General Sundarji. I think one of the few times when we spent more than 3% of our GDP on defense. And look at the things which happened those days: mechanization, brass tacks, army aviation,
The Mirage, the MiG-29s.
nuclear. India was a,
You think that was the best time so that we really
I
spent?
think so. Historically, I would say two, 3 times. One is after 62 because of what happened in 62.
Because we got a
so
bloody
recovery
nose.
till 65 was dramatic.
Yeah.
I think the Rajiv Gandhi phase, and also when this government came in, I keep saying we launched some of the boldest, most comprehensive changes in national security since independence. CDS, DMA. It was game changing. Atmanirbharta and defense coming out of the shadows of foreign policy, new normals in our strategic outlook. But what has happened is that over the last 2 decades, the game in national security has changed so much that with the lag, if we have to reduce the lag, we have to act faster.
But so look at this way. I mean, when we are still at a defense budget percentage of GDP, it's almost close to 62 levels. So you're right कि बहुत जल्दी market has played. There's a rapid expansion over there, and we are still trying to catch up. I beg to differ out here, so that we have done remarkably well in last so many years in terms of prioritizing defense, because you see the defense budgets. There's also resentment with respect to the Agnipath scheme. Of course, it's somewhere impacting the quality of the troops or the motivation of the troops. The Gurkhas are not with us. So, is defense really a priority? Though it should be a priority, but is defense really a priority?
So which government ever appointed a CDS?
I have my view to it, sir. I have a counter question to that. What is the requirement of a CDS, sir?
So the point was that there was a requirement of a CDS because you said that the responsibility of defense is not merely with the defense secretary, it is with the uniformed officer.
True.
It was a major change.
True.
उससे पहले आप बात करो, Admiral Arun Prakash will tell you that when he went to Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, the defense minister, he was told, very good Admiral, but please come through the defense secretary.
Wow.
That has changed.
That is to the naval chief, who was the chief of staff that time.
That has changed. Then he gave you a DMA. What was the DMA? Which said that, okay, whatever you decide, you execute. You're a secretary in the government. तो पहले क्या argument था? I've seen those years. You can decide everything, but you have no powers. It will have to come to a secretary. So you have to understand these changes.
Who has not seen the forces, sir?
Different matter. See, DefSec also has a role. I'm not saying that. But you were empowered. So let's first get that right. 2, you study it in detail. It was even more powerful than Barry Goldwater Nichols. 3, you are right. This is now we have to answer. With 2 CDSs, what have we delivered?
It's been 5 years plus, sir.
Absolutely. So the third question is right. First 2 are not right. It was a major civil. Atmanirbharta and defense. Private sector was taboo. If I was seen as a colonel with the private sector man, it would be a career-ending move. होटल में भी मैं दिख जाता तो करियर एंडिंग. Today all your colonels are meeting all private sector startups. There are meetings happening in army headquarters. We should not underestimate this. Defense coming out of the shadows of foreign policy. Increasingly your generals are talking about defense. General Pandey wrote a book, I wrote a book. पहले बता दो आप. You're not even allowed. It was a foreign policy preserve. So major changes. 4 new normals in your strategic outlook. When in the past have you hit Raiwind? When in the past have you hit Noor Khan base? When in the past did you do Balakot? We must acknowledge what has happened. And yet I am the first to say that despite this, we have to complete the national security makeover because of all the issues that I am pointing out to you. But we must be fair. So I am acknowledging the Rajiv Gandhi phase, I am acknowledging post-62. उससे पहले General K.V. Krishna Rao committee. A very forward-looking chief. I have seen those phases. General Sundarji. So they have good things that have happened. General Thorat. Are study Sagat. You won't see such a brilliant mind.
Undefeated soldier.
Yes. So good things have happened, but the point is that the national security, I keep saying national security is a H1 game. Highest common factor. L1 नहीं चलेगा इसमें. बीमारी है L1. You need the best and the brightest, the greatest clarity. And you have to play the game in all domains, ideation, action, narration. So Sindoor was an overwhelming military victory, perhaps undermined at the altar of poor strategic communications. सब कुछ चाहिए. Understand that. Look at military diplomacy. I was in Washington the week Asim Munir was in Washington. What amazed me was not only that he was being lunched by Trump, he was the toast of every think tank. Why? Because of his relationship with Kuruvilla in CENTCOM.
Yeah.
We have barely any presence in CENTCOM, IPECOM. What is the size of our economy? 10 times. Pakistan's GDP is less than the market cap of the Bombay Stock Exchange. We should have combat overmatched with Pakistan. We should have invested far greater in military diplomacy. If we had done so, who opened the doors of Washington to Shehbaz Sharif? Asim Munir. Abhi, you have to acknowledge that call which was made to Trump was made by Asim Munir on Sunday, even in epic fury. So if you invest in military diplomacy, there will be. So I am pointing out to you the many achievements and the many lags.
So here's a question, and a final question as far as...
Agniveer, white duck Agniveer.
Yeah.
In my view, Agniveer is a great scheme. I go to my unit, they tell me, बहुत अच्छे. The chief minister cannot select his DMs. Here the CEO is being told 100 people coming, select your 50. So now the point was what? Exit. If I'm not wrong, MHA has recently announced some 30-40% reservation. So these people who are leaving, the armed forces must ensure that all at least 70 to 80% get absorbed here. And you tell me 15 Agniveers land up in Pune, people who have been trained for 5 months, will private sector not pick them up? They will not take Agniveers. Disciplined people, trained people.
So it is not about the employability of the Agniveers. My question out here to you is, do you think a soldier, who knows that his term is going to be only 5 years, will be as motivated and trained only for 6 months and not 3+1 bare minimum, right? Do you think
he is being trained for 5 years?
But
in a battalion after that basic training.
Absolutely.
So let's go to that first part. I was Army Commander Art Track. Under me this study was done. You call General Sandhu from the Armored Corps, he was my Chief of Staff. Absolute independent study, and I still recall that when he spoke, he told me, sir, it is a wonderful scheme. I asked him why. Now some figures I may not recall, but he said, Israeli army trains for 23 weeks, US army trains for this. We were only army training for 3 years. We were getting trained drivers and training them for 3 years. So we said, all right, reduce the training period and all that you save in training, introduce in technology, AR, VR and all that. So that about your training argument.
Mm-hmm.
I've told you about selection within and exit. अच्छा अभी आप एक और आर्ग्यूमेंट बोलोगे वो जो 50% है उसको पेंशन क्या अरे अगर वो 40% घुस चला गया MHA वगैरह में उसको वैसे ही पेंशन मिलेगी What is the scheme in most places abroad? That people who leave the armed forces, join the paramilitary and all that, that's exactly what's happening. Usse kya ho raha hai? You're also getting disciplined people into the larger civil administration. So it is a win-win scheme. अच्छा अगर कुछ खामियां हैं which lot of people say नहीं है, they can be addressed. But don't throw the baby out with the bath water. उससे क्या होगा? फिर कोई चीज़ नहीं होगी. थिएटर कमांड में भी 4 ऐब होंगे, तुझे वो भी नहीं होगा. फिर DRDO भी रिफॉर्म नहीं करेगा, कोई नहीं करेगा.
So in your opinion, it's...
I'm saying, look at it, and see there are a lot of good people who are against it. उनसे बात कर लो क्या है. Let's get to the nitty-gritty of it. But I am giving you many advantages. I meet my CEOs, same CEOs. They're very happy with Agnipath.
The best person to clarify on the Agnipath.
No, I'm not the best person. There are others also, and they may have views. Pension is the advantage, but what is the long term? 2 lakh pay and pension. The others who get 8 crores and no pension. So it is what you settle for.